welcome, one and all. Welcome to our wonderful show tonight. Let's see who we have out here tonight. Let's see. Good evening, Chris. Oh, and look who just dropped into the stream. Hey, Rusty, how's it going?
What's going on, fellas?
Same old, same old. Let's see. So just reading off. Chris, welcome. Dave Krause, how's it going? Good to see you, Hitch. Greg Euler, good to see you all. And I know there's more trailing in because we've got 25 so far. That's a nice little number. Anyway.
Good number.
So, folks, tonight, well, for one thing, Q&A. So, as always, if you have any questions, by all means, send them my way. I got to start wearing black shirts here because the camera... When I wear a black shirt, my face gets real light. When I wear a bright shirt like this neon green, neon yellow, then it everything's dark.
It'd probably be better if you turn your cap around. That way you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have there. You go. You got lighter face, man.
Well, yeah, but yeah, and it's kind of a balance between. Well, you got the cap making my face dark, but at the same time, you got the covering of the hair, so, or lack thereof. So,
You want to borrow some of mine?
Oh, yeah, really. No, I can grow it back long and comb it over if I was that worried about it. Marcello, good evening. Kevin from Philadelphia, how's it going? And so, like I said, everybody, if you've got any questions whatsoever, feel free to ask them anytime during the show. You don't have to say, I got a question. You go ahead and ask the question, and Russ will be taking a look and stuff at all the questions. So,
by the way, no matter what show we have, questions are always welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. Let's see. Tonight, what we're going to be doing is, I know a lot of you, if you haven't done it already, particularly the beginners, I know. Good evening, Paul. How's it going? I know a lot of you, but particularly the beginners, at one time or another in your CNC life, you're going to want to, or you're going to make a flag. I mean, we're all, unless you're one of my Canadian folks out there or the English ones listening, even them, you can make a flag. But today is all about the American flag. And so basically I'm going to give you a few resources so you can look up a couple little things and basically show you how to make a basic flag. It's pretty simple. I mean, you could always download stuff and bitmap it, but I would highly recommend you do nice, crisp lines on everything. It makes the project look that much better. So let's go ahead and get going with that. And like I said, if you guys got any questions whatsoever, by all means, ask away. Now, the first thing that I want to do is share this site with you here. It's inchcalculator.com. Now, in fact, I'll go ahead and post it on the this is a site I found. It's a pretty nice site because you enter in the dimensions. See the vertical height is called the. Oh my God, my mind went blank. Let's see. This is the hoist. This is the.
I've seen that site.
Yeah.
Can't keep them straight.
What's that? Yeah, I know. It's.
I have to look every time.
My mind is going blank. I'll remember the fly, of course. So anyway, the fly and the hoist. Not that it matters. And for those of you, wait a second, I lost my share screen here. So for those of you also, clearly you know that the blue part is called the canton, or some people call it the union. Yeah. It's where all the stars are, and the rest of it, where you have the stars and the stripes, that's called the field. Just a few terms out there to get you familiar with your own flag. If you're not, this is I'm digging way back in my head from 45 years ago when I was 10 years old in Boy Scouts. This is where you get ingrained this stuff, And anyway, So right here, you'll notice this particular site gives you not only the dimensions, like you set up your you put in a dimension. Like I'll put in, for instance, I want the flag to be 5. Let's say I want it to be 36 inches high. All right. So what I'll do is, hang on a second. Let's see if I can do this. I just did it a second. Oh, here it is. You put one or the other. So let me put here. I'll put 36 and calculate, and it'll give me a rough approximation: 36 and 5/16 by 68 and whatever. So I'm just going to make it 5 foot wide. So 60 inches. Calculate, and there it is. 31 by 60 are the proportions. It also gives you exactly the distance of the first section right here, which will be 2 inches, and then in between each additional section, the centers. So it's very, very simple, and we'll go back and forth, and I'll show you. Now I'm going to be going at full speed. I'm not going to be going at slow speed and doing it over, because we got a time limit here.
Hold your horses on it a minute. I've got to jump in because Kevin had a question.
Yep.
He wanted to know what would be the signs of a bad controller. Chris already answered him.
Okay.
with one sign.
Yeah. no movement is okay. That's a good sign of a bad controller. Oops, sorry.
Wonky movement.
Wait. Here we go. All right. So the signs of a bad controller. Now, that depends on what controller you have. If we're talking a USB controller, such as the STB4100, the bit sensor one, the red one, the green one, they're USB controllers. Let's start with those. As far as the USB controllers are concerned, you have, or I don't know if you know, but you should have R&R motion.dll installed in your plugins folder in Mach 3. Aside from your profile, but that's a whole different story. So, assuming you have your R&R, hey, how's it going, David? We're talking flags today, so should be a fun topic. So, R&R controller, just answering a question here for Kevin. If you have it installed, first thing, it should say nothing. If it says CNC controller not found, well, there's your answer there. It could be a USB issue in that sense, or it could be, I'm just going through basic troubleshooting. Assuming it's connected, it's installed properly, and there's a connection, and it recognizes it. Obviously, if you've got the box open, if you plug in the USB, there's going to be one little tiny light for those USB controllers around the USB. That means that the USB is powering that section. The other light, there is another light connected to your 24-volt supply. That's the 24-volt supply. That's V plus and V minus on the controller. I don't have one with me at the moment, but they're the if you're facing the top of the controller and you're looking at the and the USB is on the bottom, then on the left side, the top two terminals are the V plus and V minus. Anyway,
he's having problems cutting 3D stuff, 3D cutting issues.
3D cutting issues. Now, okay, so 9 times out of 10. I mean, actually 99 times out of 100, if the controller's moving at all, it's not a bad controller. Yeah, people ask me every now and then, like some people get the Javi box, and 1 out of every 20 or 30 of my customers have asked me, hey, I got it all together. It's wonderful, but I'm getting jerky movements. That's not the box. It's not the controller. It's the settings. And that's something that you know, I'll again, I'm happy to walk through and talk to you, but one thing you got to look at is the G code. One thing that could be an issue is the G code. It's very difficult if it's 3D because it's not simple 2D and you can look at the paths and it's done. It's very convoluted. Try different settings on the G code. If anything, see if you can somehow convert it and do like a mesh drawing or a 3D print with some other simulation. Make sure your that's the first step, is make sure if it's vectoric, make sure your simulation's working fine. But that being said, lower your acceleration, lower your speed, and that may fix the issue, if that's the issue. It's difficult for me to actually give you advice on any. I'm just throwing a few things out there and hope these are the major ones, hoping something sticks. Because when you say I have a problem with a controller, or rather I have a problem with the CNC, what was it doing? It was
bad controller is what he was probably talking about.
So yeah, the signs of a bad controller is basically the two lights won't turn on. 9 times out of 10, they're usually pretty reliable. I mean, they either work or they don't. I mean, I'm at 114 boxes so far using the same controller or the same set of 2 different controllers. Not one. I have one that had a low voltage on the spindle side, the 0 to 10 volts, but even so, the operation was perfectly fine on the motor side. So it's very rare. It's very rare. It's not unheard of, but it's very rare. Make sure your stepper drivers, your power supply, and your motors are matched as well as possible. Hey, Mike, how's it going? Good evening, Russ. Troy. Good evening, Stephen. I saw you come in. Yeah, I saw Russ's name over there. Anyway, let's get back to our flag, shall we? So we're discussing American flags, and get back to whoop. There we go. And so, like I said, this is a wonderful little website that will help you with the dimensions. So now let's go ahead and start with, I was just updating my vectoric, my vcarve. No, I don't want to see any darn release notes. Okay, create a new file. We create a new file. Let's go ahead and make this one the size of our flag. How's that? We'll make it nice and easy. So 31/11/16 by 60 inches. I'll do 32 by 60. I'll make the field a little bit longer, and we'll cut it off later if we have to. Okay, so 32 width by 60. It's 32, 60, and there we go. Hang on, that's the wrong dimensions, of course. Let's try 60 by 32. I hate it when they do that. I always do height width, and they do width and height. Like, well, there's a lot of people that do that. So we'll make a box first of all. Let's go ahead and do a box to outline the whole thing. That's nice. And then what we'll do is we'll create another box for the field. I mean, for the canton here, and go back to our dimensions. And this is going to be 17. I'm going to get rid of the minor. I'm going to make them nice and even, get rid of the little measurements. 17 by 24. So what we'll do is we'll adjust it here, and the height and the it's going to be width is 24, height is going to be 17. And notice that I clicked on the anchor point up here. So I started it here, I created it any size, and it's just a little shortcut. Okay, so let's do some stars and stripes. The stars are, or rather all the stripes are 2 7/16. This one I'm not going to mess around with. So I'm just going to do the following. I'm going to do, oops, I'll do that. Okay. Oop, don't redo that. Sorry. I'm going to create another one, and the width is going to be, did I say it was 2 inches?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 inches. No, 2 and 7/16. Okay. All right. So 2 and 7/16. It's going to be 32/16. That's 39/16. Okay. So the height will be 39 divided by 16 and hit the equal sign. So there's 2 and 7/16. That's 2.4375 if anybody's paying attention. And the width, obviously, the full width of 60 inches. Click apply. There we have one stripe. And rather than now, what I could, well, I'll just do it the easy way. I'll do a nice little array, and I will say that I want the gap. It's going to be a gap, not an offset. Gap in between the two. I'm going to increase it 0 on the X side. I'm going to increase it 2.4375 on the Y side, and I'm going to have one column by 7, if I'm not mistaken. Am I mistaken, Russ?
No.
7 and 6. Copy. Boom. And it went the wrong way. So let's undo that, and let's do a negative here. And let's do the right way. Okay, copy. Boom. There we go, and we did our thing here. Now, by the way, there's that little extra we were talking about. It doesn't matter. I'll just they're all selected. So I'm just going to go ahead and oops. They're not grouped yet. I'm just going to select all of these. I'm going to group them. Then I'll just increase them right to the edge. Now they're all nice and even. Then I'm going to do this. Well, first of all, let me duplicate this. Copy, paste. All right. Now I'm going to go choose this one. Shift key minus this one. And what I mean minus is right here, the subtract. And there are my stripes. So, okay, we're done with that section of it. Now, let's do the stars, shall we? Stars, well, first let's do a star. And we're going to do the first position. And let me know, interrupt me if I have any questions out there.
Oh, well, you do, but I have to wait for you to catch a breath.
Okay.
It goes back to Kevin again. He was detailing what his issue actually is.
Okay. We'll let me finish the stars, and then I'll go right to Kevin. Let's see. So 1 and 23/32s in my head. It's 32/32s. That's 55/32s. So E is 55/32s. G is 2 inches. So I'm going to do a little thing here, and it's going to be at 2 inches. That's close enough. And the other one is let's see, 23/32. It's that's 3/4, so 1 3/4 this way. 32, so it would be 31 1/4. There it is. That's not right. 30 1/4. There we go. That's more like, that's the center of our first star. So we click a star and we make it nice. Oh, let's see. Does it show the size of the stars? It does not. All right. We'll just come up with something.
I thought it did.
Did it?
I want to say it did.
I would hope that it did, but no. The proportions for each element in the table below. Here we go. Nope. You know,
it does it right there, don't it? Look at the bottom of the union up there, doesn't it?
There it is. K. Got it.
By God, you needed me.
Thank you. 1 and 15/16. Okay, so 0.0625. Okay, got it. So let's do a star here, and it's going to be 31/16. So the radius, 31 divided by 16 equals. Remember, when you hit the equals key, it will do the calculations here. If you put a calculation, That's the outer radius. The inner radius, it doesn't say. I'll just make it standard. Center point is going to be at 2, 30.25. It's really 2. Center point is 2, 30.25. Create. That star is way too big. Yeah, that's not correct. Hang on.
Well, you remember that your well, it would be relevant, but your flag is not at the size it was supposed to be.
Oh, the flag's almost identical. The flag is. I mean, the flag. It's
the fractions.
No. But the fraction we're talking. The only difference is the 32, which is the height. I just made it a little taller. So if anything, it should be smaller, but not taller. But
yeah.
Let me see. K. Let me make sure this is correct. K is the diameter. Did they tell me diameter or radius? Here we go. Radius. Okay.
Diameter
divided by 2 equals. That's more like it. And that is the ugliest star that I've ever seen. Hang on a second. Let me do an inner radius that's a little bit smaller. Say 35. Create. Too much. Let's try 40. Create. Now I'm going to be zooming in here to.
That looks good.
Let's just go ahead and erase all of these and do it again. This, that. 40, create. It's not quite straight enough. So let's try 37. Nope. 38. Nope. It's 39. Okay, that's good enough. The edges are straight. That's a nice straight star. Well, we got our stars. And, of course, the stars are H apart, 2 inches apart.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the stars are 2 inches apart. We're going to go ahead and do the following. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wide. So it's going to be 11 by, okay, so let's do this. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 6 and 5, 11. Let's create. Oops. Let's undo that. All right, so we're back here. We select the star. Okay, folks. So follow me on this one. We're making duplicates of the stars, and they're going to be 2 inches offset on the X, 0 on the Y, of course, and it's going to be 11. Sorry, 1 row, 11 stars. Copy. Bam.
Yeah, let's see what
there they are. All right, now what we do is we take this, hold the shift key, and this, and this, and this, and this. And we'll just go ahead and group them together just to keep them grouped. All right, and then we select the others, and I'll keep those group. What I did was I selected all of them while holding the shift key. So it deselected the first group and selected the second. I mean, sometimes I'm going, sometimes I do things in a little too fast. So now let's go back to this group, and we'll take a look and see how far they should be. F is 1 and 23/30 seconds. So again, 55 30 seconds down. So we'll go to the move, wherever it is. And we shall, the center is fine, relative. And we're going to move it down. That's negative, not making that mistake again. Well, first let me do 55 divided by 32 equals, and then I'm going to go negative and apply, and it worked perfectly fine. So now, since we're going to do the same thing now, we're going to copy how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups, and we'll cut out the last of the stars. We're going to do 5 groups, and again, we're going to go down that same twice the F. So here, let's go back to our offset here. This time we're doing 5 groups, 5 rows. 1, offset again, 0. And again, we're going to do this, what was that number? 55, 30 seconds. So 55 divided by 32 times 2. All right, equals that, and we're going to go in a negative direction. So I've basically taken this one will move down 1, 2 of those F spaces or whatever that was. So copy, and there they all are. And your flag, as soon as you can uncheck it and click this last one and click delete, is practically done, except for this little stupid thing here. So let's go ahead and nudge this up. We can't nudge it up. We gotta fix this. But anyway, here I'll just do it this way. I'll select the entire field and go down to here. It's just imperceptible enough to make it work. Then again, I will copy and paste this again and take this one minus this one. You know, sometimes what you got to do is just I'm basically showing you guys how to subtract here, how to tweak these little things. But all in all, you've got yourself a flag. All right, so there's your flag, folks. We are at the how long did that take me?
We're at 27 minutes.
After. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Not bad.
I was doing it first time, but anyway, let me save this. Now, once you have the flag, and you can make it any proportion you want, because once you have the flag, and I'm going to go 60 by 32, whatever. Not flaff. Let's say American flag. I mean, this is if you want to do it yourself, guys, because and I highly recommend you do it at least once, because you can always go the lazy way and just download stuff. But we, you know, we're not like that. We don't play that game. We're makers, woodworkers, craftsmen. Call us what you will. But all right, so catch me up, because I know there's been a lot of conversation. Well, let me first say hello to the people that popped in recently. Oh, we're up to 32 people. Very nice. Let's see here. Glenn, good to see you.
Paul Mako.
Paul Mako. Let's see. And those are the ones that are listed. I'm not going to, okay. Catch me up.
All right. He says he's having 3D cutting issues. It's hard to explain. He says, I'll zero out the finish carve, and by the time it gets halfway done, it's cutting air like it's moving away from the wood.
Okay. It's just from the sound of that, you are likely losing steps on the Z-axis in one direction. So it's very possible that when you're pushing down, obviously make sure your bit is tightened, but that would go the other direction, because most of the time, if your bit is loose and you'd think that, oh, you know, if I press too hard, the bit will go up. And that's if it's just a little bit loose, it's very possible that the bit might go up a little bit as you're pressing and then lose distance. However, most of the time, and I'm talking really a majority of the time, just if that bit is loose at all, it's going to be dropping. That's run out. That's what we call run out. For those of you who don't know. So the bit is one thing. Check the mechanic. I always check the mechanics first, because never assume it's an electrical issue if everything's been running right and all of a sudden it doesn't. Some mechanics is you. So check the couplers, make sure they're nice and tight on the. Make sure your machine itself. Although, like I said, gravity's working for you, so most likely it's not mechanical. Now,
does it do it at that point on the simulation? if you slow it down, can you actually see the bit come up?
Yeah,
Make sure it's in your program.
What you got to keep an eye out for the following while you're doing it, and this has happened to me before. I've noticed on one or two of my on one or two of my jobs. Sometimes I notice, oh my God, that bit is cutting way too deep or way too shallow. And my first thought is, oh, the bit must have slipped out. But then I'm looking because if you have it set so you're looking at all the lines going through, you will see while it's doing a bunch of different motions, you'll see where the Z is at.
Yeah.
So you'll see it's carving a pocket hole. The Z is going to be in the same position the whole time. Yeah, right. X and Y are going to be moving, but you're going to see it's 0.05, 0.05, 0.05, 0.05. Right. Oh, well, that's what I'm supposed to be cutting at. But every now and then I'll look at it and I'll go, wait a second, 0.05, I'm supposed to be cutting at 0.75. Something went wrong. So keep an eye out for what the actual measurement is, or open up the G code at that portion, or stop the program and take a good look at that line number and see what the Z is at. So that'll we're trying to eliminate certain things. So that'll eliminate that the last thing that Russ said, which is if it's the actual code that's doing it. My suspicion is that it's run out. Rather, it's losing steps because it's very possible that it's losing steps as it's one possibility. It may not be that common. Usually, when you lose steps in the downward position. In other words, it gets deeper and deeper. Rarely do you lose steps up unless you're pushing really hard. So one thing I would caution you is take a look at your G code and see what your plunge rate is and what your and where you're moving. Because if this thing is moving and plunging at the same time and it's trying to hog out a lot of material, it may try to push and get some pushback just enough to it shouldn't cause you to lose a step. But remember, I don't care how strong your motors, how strong your machines are, unless they're strong enough to break a bit. The weakest part of most of our machines, most of our hobby machines, is the motors themselves. They will stall in any direction if pushed too hard. And that's a good thing. You don't want to break a bit. So you'd rather have this thing bogged down. One time I had this thing bogged down. I made a huge mistake and I did a 1.5 inch surface bit. I was surfacing the spoil board, and that thing, luckily I didn't have it on super high speed, because that spindle on high speed, I would tear a hole through the board, no problem. That wouldn't have an issue. But it was at a low speed because it's a big bit. You don't want the carbide flying off those things. You got to be careful with that. Well, this thing just dug right in, and I got a video of it somewhere. It's the coolest thing in the world. Made smoke pour out of the thing because I went until it locked up. I mean, that bit just basically it stalled. Instantly I hit as fast as I could. Even before then, I tried to hit the emergency stop, and I was too slow, but fast enough. But my point is, if you're trying to push it too hard, you'll either stall out the machine or it'll go gung gung. I mean, because oftentimes I've had even the zero. You guys know that I work with the top of the spoil board. I don't work with the top of the material. Occasionally I do, though. And here's the problem. When I start working with the top of the material instead of the top of the spoil board, and then I forget, and the next job, I'm used to working with the top of the spoil board, and I didn't check that box off. All of a sudden, this 3/4 inches starts here, and luckily this has this will not let me go more than 0.2 of an inch below the actual spoil board. There's a hard limit but If I'm only cutting 0.1 inch, well, it's going to start tearing right through the piece. And so before it even gets to the spoil board, it'll be making a nice big hole. That's happened numerous times, and it will happen to everybody. I don't care how careful you are. We all make those mistakes, and it's beautiful. That one thing you got to be thankful for. Always be thankful. I know it's after Thanksgiving, but be very, very thankful that it's your wood or your oh my God, your priceless wood and stuff that's getting damaged, and not like if you make a mistake on a table saw and you get kickback and it shoots a log through your chest or through your stomach. That would be more of a problem. We're very, very. See, here's the thing about CNCers. For those of us that work only CNC, it doesn't apply. But for those of us woodworkers, like most of you and I, who work with multiple tools, we are cautious about two different things. When it comes to the CNC, we're always keeping an eye out and an ear out for certain things, like whether the machine is starting correctly. If we know and trust that we did our jobs correctly and we've checked the simulation, once it starts correctly, we're pretty comfortable and we can sit back and relax. And then we just listen for a problem. But when it comes to woodworking outside, most of us, I hope, are always uber cautious, like all the other woodworkers are, of everything. I love working with a planer, but I don't care how many times I'm pushing the board through. I'm not getting anywhere near that underneath part. I know I know the rollers I know how it's all made up. We've taken it apart. Many of us have changed planer blades. I know that there's a whole roller and there's a whole like 5 or 6 inches before I get anywhere near the blade.
Right.
I ain't sticking my hand anywhere underneath that area.
I tip it just the tips of my fingers, and I know I got further to go, but I don't do it.
Yeah, and with a table saw, I'll be honest with you. I'm very, very thankful to this entire YouTube woodworking community. For those of you who have seen enough videos or seen enough friends get their fingers cut off, you're cautious enough with other people's mistakes that, I mean, look at Jimmy DiResta. He's been cautious for years, and one mistake and there goes a piece of his finger. And the thing is, every time you see something like that, Stumpy Nubs, James Hamilton, also, I mean, he's been working carefully, safety conscious for years. And one little tiny slip up with the gouger. Oh my God, those things are. I hate those things. I wouldn't go anywhere near one of those. But if you're a woodworker, well, the table saw, I don't get anywhere near that. There's a reason why it's red. I don't get anywhere near the plate. I try to stay away from the plate. Even so, I've seen people stay away from the plate, and one bad move, and that saw will grab and pull a piece of board the wrong way. And how many times has it happened to any of you guys that you're hanging on instinctively to a board to protect yourself? Meanwhile, while you're trying to protect yourself, your hand is going into a blade. Well, I mean, your hand.
I had it happen to me almost.
Yeah,
When
almost.
I realized where I was, I said, "Holy crap!" Close.
I think the stupidest thing I've ever done, and I'll admit it to you folks, the stupidest thing I've ever done was, and hey, you learn, you're never going to do that again, is I was too lazy to actually shift my DeWalt miter saw to 45 degrees. No, I don't think that was it. I think it was I needed a bigger cut. I needed like a bigger angle than 45. Well, regardless, so I held the board, far away at 45. I held the board like this at 45 or 60 or whatever, and started bringing the thing down. Now, this is a 12-inch. It's got a lot of momentum. There's nothing back there supporting it. I should have made I should have used the table saw and cut an angle. You use the right tools. No, I held it here. That thing, I went a little too fast, and those teeth just grabbed onto a 2x4. And I don't care if it was that. Imagine, if you will, I got a 2x4. I'm holding this part of it. This part, maybe 2 inches away from the end, is all that it took for that blade to pull and yank.
Yeah.
Cantilever the entire 2x4 until my knuckles went slammed into the guard, into the guard, the back.
Blade guard, yeah.
No, not the blade guard. Sorry.
Okay.
It was what the hell's it called? Where you push up the wood against to cut the miter. Whatever that's called.
Fence.
The fence, thank you. He's just like
twice you needed me.
It's been a long day. I don't even know the word of fence. My knuckles basically went cum, and my hand slammed against. Let me tell you, that was painful for a good 15, 20 minutes.
I bet.
And
Mike says he had a half-inch
shorter index finger due to a table saw. Oh, and for those of you, look at my hand here. For those of you who have noticed this hand, with my not many people notice it because I mean people keep it curled up and you don't really know it, and it's the ring finger. This was not a woodworking accident. This was 11-year-old, a ring, and it was a defective slide and got caught onto a bolt. But accidents happen, no matter how careful you are. It's a beautiful thing. I got this thing to remind me not to get my fingers anywhere near there. So, and that's the other thing. When you're 11 years old and you have a traumatic accident and lose half a finger, you're likely to value the other 9 more than
you got 9.5.
I got 9.5. I'm short already.
You can never be a perfect 10.
And the funny part is, when you say half a finger, there's a lot of people that lose a third. It's 3 phalanges.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. That's a third of a finger when you lose the tip. Okay.
Yeah.
When you lose 2, that's 2/3 of a finger. So don't say you lost half a finger. You lost 2/3. I actually lost half a finger. Look, it still bends. It was cut off right here in the middle of the phalange of the bone. So it was a fun thing to experience. So let's get back to that problem again. And where are we? We're 8:42. Yeah, we got plenty of time. Okay, so so like they've been saying, I mean, again, this forum is fantastic. You got a lot of experienced CNCers out there who just watch me for entertainment value and maybe to get an idea or two, and I appreciate that as well. I do the same thing. I just watch other people, whether I'm more or less knowledgeable than them. It's something I'm interested in, and it's something we all as a community talk about. So
David Howe's asked a question.
So definitely pull on the experience of the people here. While at the same time, and I'll do a disclaimer here, while at the same time, don't trust everything everybody says. Because this doesn't apply to most of you here, but it does apply to some. I've had some stuff come up, and not just on mine, but on when I was with Dave doing the Gatton show and on other shows. You hear I'll say it blunt, you hear the stupidest pieces of advice sometimes from people. They go, I can't believe they actually said that. And then, you get to the point where look, I'm not going to argue against them. I'll say, yeah, that's a good piece of advice. Now try this. But let's see here. So Paul's saying, does your roughing toolpath work correctly? That's a very good point. The roughing toolpath, if it's doing the same thing on the roughing toolpath, then it may be a programming issue. If it's not doing the same thing. And again, I'll go back to when you are moving at a high acceleration or at a high rate of speed, higher than is normal for these things, you'll lose steps. Let me share before I get to the who was the one that had a question?
David House.
David House. Okay, I'll give you. I'll attend to you right now. Okay, so causes for losing steps. It could be if you've got a parallel controller, then make sure your computer, no matter what, also be careful with those upgrades, because Windows tends to upgrade and then and mess everything up. Remember, these are digital signals being sent at regular intervals. Now, if these digital signals are sent, okay, I'm sending one, I'm sending one, I'm sending one, I'm sending one. What? There's a mouse movement? Oh, okay, I'm sending one. Guess what? You just lost a step or 2 or 3 or 10. So it happens. If the resources are being pulled from the computer, your hard drive is too filled with stuff. A hard drive should never be more than, this is going to shock everybody, never be more than 40% to 50% max filled. I'm willing to bet at least half of you have broken that rule. You know, and if you're anywhere near 70 or 80% filled, you are causing major resource hog and slowdown. Remember, all of these newer operating systems, and I'm talking newer in the last 15 to 17 years, I've seen this constantly progress. Remember before, in the days where we used to defrag our hard drive?
Yeah.
We don't do that anymore. Why? Because the operating systems are more efficient. And by efficient, that means they are constantly in the background doing this process, reading different parts of the drive and making sure it's defragged or as efficient as possible. Well, what happens when all of a sudden it's 80% filled? You've got God knows how much, and the fact that it's using the memory of there are times where quite often it's called virtual memory, and all operating systems are designed this way. In order not to use your RAM to the highest degree, most of the stuff is you're running 5 or 10 different programs, sometimes 20 or 30 or 40 at once, little tiny background programs and regular programs. And these things, they're not all in RAM. It's the Windows and Mac OS are geared so it's like a person. Okay, what I'm looking at now, I've got all this stuff stored away right now, but I'm not looking at my bottle of Diet Coke. I'm looking at you guys because this is what I'm focusing on. When I get thirsty, my attention turns to my Diet Coke and I fill it up and I drink, one thing at a time, right? So that gets stored away. Other programs that you're not using, background tasks will be constantly pinged back and forth, but it all gets stored in a section of hard drive that's not permanent, but it's while your computer's on, it will be constantly be running. All of these things, I can't emphasize it enough. Bog down your computer. If your computer's bogged down enough, and it doesn't take much of a computer to run. Because it doesn't take much of a computer to run a CNC. In fact, you want as little as possible on there. That's why everyone in the CNC community will tell you the same thing. Try to stay off the internet if you can. Try to have a direct connection if you can, with the for the file. Oh, there's another question for you. Another way it would lose steps. And this has happened to me with that beautiful $10,000 machine within the first week. And it was brand spanking new, and I didn't know what was going on. I was running, and I've mentioned this before, I was running a program from a card rather than running, if it's a big file, run it from the hard drive. Make sure your hard drive is optimized and close to empty. Run it from the hard drive. Yeah. The pulling the information from the hard drive is more than fast enough for the CNC program. But if you're running it from a card, again, all of a sudden, the attention turns away from the card. It's got to go back and figure out where it was in the card, because I won't get into the technical part, but I've studied this stuff at school. There are addresses and registers that basically all the information gets saved. It's like a placeholder. It's like, hey, where were you in the library section? Oh, I'm going to write this down. Okay, now I stick it in my pocket. I go to a different section in the library. Now, oh, I got to go back to that section. I don't just go right back. I got to remember where the hell I was. Oh, let me search in my pocket. Let me look at, oh, okay, that's where I was. And then you go back. Well, same thing happens in a computer. And all these little tiny processes take time. Any time that a process is pulling away from your CNC project is a possible dropped step. It's that simple. Okay, I think we've possibly beaten that, or at least given you some things to try. Hopefully, one of those is the issue. Okay, so he has a question. When carving along like 7 hours, the machine will stop and Mach 3 locks up. Don't know where to start. Well, again, I've covered some of this stuff now with this error code 9991. Let me look that up real quick, folks. Mach 3 error code 9991. Are you using an ESS smooth stepper by any chance? Because I see that's very prevalent. There's a lot of people doing that. Let's see. Here we go. Repair guide solved. Let's see. Mach 3. Oops. Hang on. Shoot. I just had this. Okay, hang on a second. There we go. Your Windows operating system may be corrupted. Opening programs with slower response times will lag. When you have multiple applications running, you may experience freezes and crashes. Okay, you can dramatically improve the speed of your machine. There is if you look on Microsoft's website or search for Mach 3 error code, Mach 3 one word, error code 9991, and one of the items, it's customer support, but it's wintuts.org, whatever. It shows a resolution and it shows a 9991 repair tool. I don't know. I can't speak to that. However, I would expect, but let me not. Okay, maybe not click on that one because I just had a couple pop-up windows and I suspect that might be a virus. So don't go crazy with that. But never be careful with repair tools unless they come from actual Microsoft. From what I've read, and again, it is in just a minute or so, error 9991 is basically it's just what we've been talking about. It's a resource problem. It's a crash due to too many resources pulling on the same thing. Mm-hmm. Make sure your hard drive is clear. Make sure your Windows is running smoothly. Sometimes a hard drive may be getting corrupt. I mean, maybe losing, because hard drives are, if you've had your hard drive more than 3 years, think about getting another one and transferring everything over. Yeah, I know people are saying, oh, but I've had mine for 8 years and no problem. Look, 3 years, I hate to say it, folks, 3 years is the life expectancy of a hard drive. Yeah, they all last 8 to 10 years, but they last 8 to 10 years with 50% corruption. So look into that. Most businesses, including my own, my home computer, look, I got everything backed up, so I don't care. I'm cheap when it comes to my own stuff, so I'll run it to the ground. However, when it comes to my businesses, every single one of those hard drives gets replaced after 3 years. And the beautiful part is I take them all night. I have all my 3-year-old hard drives here at home, so nothing's really older than 4 or 5 years. But anyway, so hard drive. Make sure you're not running any different programs. Again, if you're running a long carving, I've done 55-hour carvings before with no issue whatsoever.
Same here.
You know? And I've done 3 and 4 hour carvings with problems. Again, that was due to the USB card. So those are my suggestions as far as that's concerned. Let's see what everybody's talking about here. Okay, so This was it was a used computer you bought. Okay, so there's another issue also with buying. I mean, I'm all for that. I'm all for saving money on computers, and you don't need much. Don't need much to work it. What you do need, however, is enough experience in setting up a computer to make sure you have all of the proper drivers, all the proper, if we're talking Windows, all the proper Windows drivers, the proper operating system, you know, a legal copy of Mach 3, because there's a lot of bootleg copies out there that in order to make it bootleg, they hack certain portions of it, and I've seen some problems with them. So, you know, some run perfectly fine, some don't. I'm not an advocate of, hey, it's $175. Come on, it's
not that bad, man.
Compared to a $1,400 on the cheap side CNC, come on.
Yeah. Mako says, "Wow, 55-hour carving. I'd like to see what that was."
That was. Let me see if I actually. I'll look for that. I'll look for that right now. Hang on a second. See if I can pull that picture up, because.
That's the one you told me your step over was like 2-3%, something like that.
Yeah, it was a okay. So I'll tell you what it is, and hopefully I can find it for next week. But it was about about 14 inches wide or so, and maybe close to 3 feet, maybe 28 inches 28 inches high. It was about no more than 28. It was like 32 inches high. So 2.5 feet by a foot or so. It was a surfboard. Now, what I did was I had a friend who said, "Hey, I really like Hawaii, and I was wondering if you can do anything with this." And she I wanted you to make a surfboard for me. She just said, basically gave me carte blanche. I found a picture online, a colored picture of the surfboard, and I don't know what it said. It said, I put their last name in it. It was all, and it wasn't 3D. So it's one of those pseudo 3Ds, But you know what? And it had some turtles on it. It had a palm tree, the usual tropical kind of stuff. All in a bordered surfboard, basically to hang up on the wall. And I say surfboard, but basically it's a sign in the shape of a surfboard. Well, let me tell you, she loved it. She went crazy. But that thing took so long, and it was so precise, I didn't have to sand a thing. Not a thing. She took a little sanding, and she painted the whole thing. It was to be painted. I used I believe I slapped together a bunch of 2x4s and I just glued them together. I did that recently for my cousin. I didn't show you guys, and Dave Gatton used to tell me about another person, about one of the other makers out there. He goes, I always see him designing stuff, but I never see him making stuff, and that's a big pet peeve of his. And I agree with him in a sense. I mean, it's frustrating watching somebody, like right now, I've made an American flag for you, but design is one thing and execution is another. Now, all the stuff that I've designed with you folks in the past few weeks, I have made, and you've seen most of it. I still have to, and I still have it in my head. I still have to show you the key thing for Ed. And that I made for my daughter, and I have to show you the sign I made for my cousin. I actually delivered it to him, and I forgot to get a picture of it. But he's gonna paint it, so I'm gonna have him shoot me a picture of it when it's done. His Noah general store.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, that was a fun little sign to do, old timey wimey sign. So, but that 55-hour carve was that. What happened was, I did one. I think I threw it away already. I had it laying around here for the longest time. There's a piece of garbage wood. Yeah, I think I might have burned it even. But I did the first one. The first one, I was like 4 hours into it, and I'm no 4 or 6 hours into it. I left maybe 5%. It was 5% overlap.
Mm.
You can't do 5% overlap. It was and it was with a V bit. I didn't even use a round over. I used a V bit. So now I'm getting lines going this way, and then it started doing lines going this way. And about halfway through this, I forget this. And you look at it, and you're trying to see what the heck is it, and all it looks like is a bunch of little pyramids. So it wasn't. It didn't look like anything. So then I go, oh God, did I mess something up and stuff? And thank goodness this was in the beginning of my 3D phase, and I called Mark Lindsay up and I asked him. I said, well, I had different issues with the CNC, because what I didn't like was there was a problem with Mach 3 where there was a roughing pass with this particular program, and this was VCarve Photo VCarve.
Photo VCarve, yeah.
The issue was it produced the toolpath, but the toolpath it produced was one roughing pass and one final pass, which it would be perfectly fine. You guys say, oh, what? That's normal, except the roughing pass, no matter how you sliced it, and I use that word effectively, it did not go in layers. It was like if the thing is 3/4 of an inch and there's a section that goes all the way down to an inch deep.
Mm-hmm. All the way down, yeah.
All the way down. And I don't know if you remember that, Russ, because I know you were around during that time. It was just, I go, how in the world can I do this? Because I want to do it in multiple passes.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had to slow the machine way down so it would plunge. I'd do a slow plunge cut, and then now I'm crawling because it's taking off an inch in some places.
It's that first line that's the hardest one.
That first line is the hardest one, and we're talking an 1/8 inch roundover bit.
Yeah.
You try doing that at the speeds that I normally do, which is anywhere between 100 and 120, and snap like that,
Yeah.
So yeah. So David, be careful with used computers, because sometimes the drivers are not working. Sometimes I mean, I've spent many years fixing computers and building computers of the before time. Reference to Star Trek. The before time. We're talking when computers were mostly parts and not all one piece. And a lot of those, I must have. Well, I could turn the camera right now and I could see 3 or 4 computers. I got one right here. I got one right here next to me. Look at it. It's just a PC that hasn't been used in a year and a half, and it's just sitting there. Well, when I get the new shop, and this is a I don't know. I want to say it's actually, I can tell right here. Well, no, it just says Intel inside. All right, but I believe it's a Pentium 6.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we're talking ancient. I still think back and go, Pentium 6. Wow, that's so cool. That's so new.
Yeah.
I remember the 386 days, and I do remember the 386 days, and the 286 days, and the 8088 days.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember the 8088 days.
Mm-hmm.
So good times. But yeah, that when it comes to something like that, my 2 biggest recommendations are: check your computer. If you're using a parallel port, make sure it's a short cable, because long cables, that's one big one. A long cable, all you need is one of those thousands, tens and thousands of signals going through. All you need is one to miss, but to have too low voltage, and your system will crash. Rather, if you don't lose a step, your entire program will crash. So.
Last question.
Yeah.
Chris says, do you think those long-running carvings do much to your electric bill?
That's a good question. See, I tend to. I mean, they do to a certain degree. I mean, we're talking. you know, if your concern is that, I would definitely put a kilowatt meter on the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've said it before, and I will definitely say it again. The longer the carving, the more unique the carving. If you are in this for money, for a business, if you're not doing it for a friend, keep in mind you are spending exponentially more money.
Yeah.
Your time on the machine, wear and tear on the machine, your electric bill. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of many factors. What that sign that I made for a friend and I charged her $50 probably cost me, well, let's put it this way. My machine time, I usually bill the machine time for a business at $25 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going for 55 hours. So, hang on. We're looking at 1,375 hours. And I spent about 3 hours at $50 an hour, so I had $150. Over $1,500 is what that sign would have cost. In other words, I, as a businessman who knows about business, if somebody were to ask me, how much could you do that sign for? I would basically tell them point blank, if you want, I'll be happy to give you a price, but it would be so ridiculous. And I'd explain to them exactly what I've just explained to you.
Mm-hmm.
Machine time, you got 55 hours on the thing. Even if your machine time is $5 an hour, okay? $5 an hour machine time, that's 255 times 5, that's 275. $275. And you gotta count your hours. Mine is 50 an hour is what I usually price out. Now, I'm real good. I can knock it off in half an hour. Okay, fine. Knock it off in half an hour. So that's $25. So there's $300 right there. $300 may be a reasonable price. Maybe a reasonable price. And that doesn't include your electric and the machine. So you're still losing money on it.
Yeah.
If you actually want a profit from a sign like that I made, 500 bare minimum that I could see a woodworker charging for that. It doesn't sound right to you guys. 500. It's just a heck. I bought a bunch of I bought a couple 2x4s. I spent $4 in wood. Yeah, $4 in wood. You have to price everything out. Because bottom line is, while your machine, now granted, if you're not doing anything else and you've got all the money in the world for electric to throw away, if you don't mind an extra $20 or $10 or however much it was on your electric bill, and you know how much you figure if you're actually thinking of making money on that thing and you do not value your time, then by all means charge $300 for it. You will still lose money. That's one thing you got to get through your head. You will still lose money. How do you make money in CNC? Do something that's repeatable. That's what the machine is for, and quick.
Yeah.
Why do you think the guys at the fairs have, whether it's handheld or CNC, why do you think they all crank out a bunch of stock different shapes of signs on cedar wood, and then they'll come in, they'll go, fancy name,
yeah,
their name, nothing more.
That's
or they
it.
have already prepared signs that they're charging $150 for. But those signs, they have, the machine is ganged up a whole bunch of them. And then all they got to do is put in the name, the Johnsons.
Yeah, I got one like that.
20 minutes on the machine,
Mm-hmm.
V-carve,
Mm-hmm.
quick, dirty, simple, a simple spray paint, a sand, or run it through a planer if you want to dirty your blades, and you're done. And you just, a little spritz, and you just sold something. And even those guys, I've seen a numerous of those carnival guys. I don't remember guys. I was in 18 years I mean, while I've had my business, since it was local and I didn't travel with the carnival, but I basically had a 2-month spot every year. And I'm very familiar. And I have gone to a few different carnival gigs, and I've seen the guys. And I traveled throughout all of Florida looking for ideas. So on purpose, it was a business trip of me going to every single carnival in Florida, from the Strawberry Festivals up north to all the different county fairs. I loved it. That was the best business trip ever. Man, did I stock up on elephant ears. But
There you go, boys.
Big out on elephant ears and hot dog. Oh, Amish donuts. Oh, I love Amish donuts. Don't get me started. But in short, there were a lot of people. I mean, it's a completely different lifestyle. What those guys are doing for a job, no sane businessman would do. There are a number of guys that I've seen. There's a guy who does scroll work. Okay, he sells them for $50 each. $50. He slices up maybe a 2-foot log, slices it, leaves the bark on it. So you'll see the bark, and it's sliced diagonally. So you'll see both edges of the bark. It's basically like a very long oval barked border piece of wood. And all he does, he drills holes, he has patterns, and he creates beautiful, beautiful art. This guy does it all day long at the carnival. He's got more people there watching him than he does buying stuff from him.
Yeah.
Because people want the quick $5 or $20 thing. They don't want to spend $100 on that. So he'll probably get 1 or 2 sales a day. And for him, that $200 is great. And it's fantastic money. But $200 for an entire day or more's work, because when it, he's got to spend a lot, he'll get 1 done in a day. He'll sell 2, but that's because he's working weekends and in his off time and stuff like that. I mean, guys, if, and you'll ask me, well, how can a carny like that make money? You can't, which is why they do, because they're undervaluing their time. However, this guy that I spoke to, he wasn't undervaluing his time. He loved to do it. He just wanted to be out there. He goes from place to place. He's enjoying himself. It's his lifestyle. It's what he likes to do. So you could think of it this way. That extra $100 that he's working, that was for himself. That was for his lifestyle. So, you could actually justify it that way. And we've all seen a bunch of people justify it that way. Oh, well, I'm doing this as a hobby because I like to do it. Okay, well, don't call it a business. Because it's not. It's a hobby. It's a hobby that happens to give you some extra money and stuff. And I'm all for it, because that's what I'm going to be doing when I get older. I'm going to be giving my time away more and more. I'm doing it already with the hobby boxes. I'm not making profits on those things. I am not going to lose money on them. There will come a time far in the future where I'll probably lose money because it's something I like to do, but that won't be it. But anyway, so let's go ahead and wrap up the show. But yeah, as far as that's concerned, I highly recommend you to look at the computer setup for the problems with the problems with the computer setup. That's going to be that's one big issue. Another big issue is, again, like I said, there are too many numerous to mention. I would try a whole different computer system and see if that solves the problem. I'd make sure that the drive is working great and smooth, and not, because a lot of times these older drives, particularly on an old computer, they're so fragmented or so corrupted You know, all these drives with smart technology in the past 25 years, they fix themselves. But in doing so, if it's so error prone, I mean, they've got extra space on purpose to handle errors that happen throughout the life of the drive. But after a time, they don't just quit. Most of them, they gradually get worse and worse and worse, and pretty soon they get to a time where it's going. I mean, you guys have all experienced it. How many times have you experienced something? You're on a computer and you go, "Oh, hang on, my hard drive is having an issue," and it's going and it's thinking and thinking. And all of a sudden, everything's fine. Well, guess what? It was doing a little period of maintenance, and it can't be reading and writing while it's doing that. It's reading and writing to fix itself, and it happens. It happens. Well, if it's happening in the middle of a carve, you've lost the carve, you've crashed, you've lost steps. Again, all these problems are interrelated. So think about all those. And with that, and yeah, like I said, pay attention to the to your electric bill, folks. Pay attention to your machine costs money to run. So I'm all a proponent for doing things out of love for friends and family and stuff. But make sure you enjoy it. The moment you stop enjoying it, you're giving your money. You're giving stuff away. Make sure that person appreciates what you're sharing with them.
Yeah.
And with that, you guys all have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all next week for another Javi Unboxed. Am I coming back next week? Let's see. Yep, 19th. I'll be here. Have a wonderful day, and happy holidays, everybody. And keep doing those. I believe Dave. I don't know. I've been blocked from his site for God knows what reason, but I believe he's still doing the Gatton CNC thing. So you guys go ahead and put some projects on there, and it's always a fun thing to do.
Yep.
I always enjoy it. Have a great day and a great week, and good night, all.
Good night, everybody.